they taught me nice. I play with all of my life. You see my name in the lights. Better get right, champion. The game is in trouble. I've been in my depth for the piece of the puzzle. I got it for real. Still keep me going. I wake up and hustle. You won't see me buckle. I've been in the field. Man of the town. You've been in your fields. I'm adjusting this crown. Call me your majesty. Either that or your tragedy. We shutting everything down.
Hey, I am hanging out with UFC champion, legendary Randy Couture. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me on.
Oh my gosh, it's a privilege. I've been a fan of yours for a long, long time.
Well, thank you.
Which is telling on my age.
Well, I'm constantly giving mine away, so it's all good.
You are a 6-time UFC champion and a 2-division champion. The first one in the 2-division championship divisions, right?
That's right.
Okay, yeah. You are also a very, very good action actor.
Thank you.
Movie star, yeah.
Thank you. I'm having fun.
Gosh, you're a PFL commentator. You are a book author. How many books? 3 or 4?
4.
Oh my gosh,
4 so far.
Right?
Yeah, the autobiography was in the top 20 for the New York Times. And
that's crazy.
Yeah, did a couple of technique books, and then my last book was called The Last Round. It was kind of a picture book. Good for fighters. Fighters love picture books.
Simple. And you're a brilliant businessman, too. I don't know how you do it all. I don't know where you find the time.
Well, brilliant might be a stretch, but it's been a learning experience for sure. I've got my butt handed to me a couple times in this world, and it's been a fun journey.
You know what? The one thing that I'm very thankful for is your service in the Army, in the U.S. Army. You were a sergeant in the Army in the 101st Division.
101st Airborne Division, yeah. It was my last duty station, Fort Campbell, Kentucky. 6 years, 82 to 88, 19 years old basically to 25, a very formative time in my life. And I'm very thankful for my service.
Absolutely, me too.
I had a family on the way at 18 years old. I got married and had a kid on the way, Ryan, the guy who runs this gym now.
It's crazy.
And that's what led me to the Army. I didn't want to be like my dad, who was a bit of a deadbeat, frankly. And so I kind of went on autopilot. Oh, we're getting married, let's do this. And by the time I left Germany, I had my second child. Amy was born in Germany when we were stationed over there.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a military brat as well. I was in the Air Force for 20 years.
Oh, wow, okay.
So I understand the sacrifice and service that people do for the armed forces. And I lived in Germany. I also lived in Italy.
Nice.
Overseas, so
Vincenza?
Yeah, it was fun.
Oh, yeah. 21st Support Command. That was the Army unit that was down there.
It's a good life. It's a good life and an honorable one. So thank you very much for that.
No, well.
So everybody knows about your fighting career. Everybody knows how great you are. You are a legend in your space. But I want to know more about you after the UFC life. Your life now, outside the Octagon. Let's go back a few years right before you retired, okay? Because you have a pretty amazing story as far as retirement. You were 47 years old. And still a champion. That's got to be a record in itself, correct?
I think it was the oldest heavyweight champ at 44 when I fought Tim Sylvia for the heavyweight championship again.
Yeah, I watched that.
That was a fun fight. It was one of my favorites. That was the biggest crowd we'd had in North America at that time, in Nationwide Arena in Columbus, Ohio, at the Arnold. It was a crazy fight. That last 10-second countdown of the crowd that night will ring in my ears forever. It was amazing.
Chuck Liddell, UFC Hall of Famer, is going to become once again the heavyweight champion of the world. This place is deafening.
And Tim's a good friend. You know, I like Tim. Tim and I get along great. He actually stayed in my house for 3 weeks training with us up at Team Quest before he ever won the championship.
No way.
Going into the Rico Rodriguez fight, because
Oh my
I
gosh.
obviously had fought Rico. So Pat Miletich, who was Tim's coach, sent him out to Team Quest to
Cool.
help prep and get ready for that fight. And he stayed in my house. He's a great guy. I was going through the middle of a remodel at the time, so he was literally helping me with the remodel during the day, and then we'd go to the gym and train in the evenings. And
How do you do that when you get in the ring and punch somebody's face?
this is what we do. It's what we
How
do.
you switch it on? I don't know how you switch it on.
It's a very wrestling mindset. I've had to wrestle some of my best friends for that spot on the team,
Yeah.
to the varsity spot. One of us was going home pissed off. That's just how it was. So that mentality translated to fighting for me.
Yes.
There are no secrets. And the BJJ community especially was a very closed community. It was very hard to find black belts that would train with us back in the day when we were trying to figure this BJJ stuff out.
Yes.
And John Donahue was one of those guys that was a black belt under the Machados and Gene LaBelle, and
Right.
same with Eric Paulson. Those were the only two black belts. Me, Danny, Matt Lindland, a bunch of us were trying to find BJJ black belts we could learn this
I know,
what
right?
these
There
crazy
was-
guys
it
were
was a
doing.
limited amount.
Yeah, it was a very closed system. So
Yeah.
I was thankful for those guys that were willing to step up and wanted to exchange that information, wrestling versus BJJ, and that share of information, that cross-pollination as the sport kind of grew into the hybrid sport that it is now.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I've actually just seen it to progress in so many different ways. So, with different divisions and so many choices in fighters now.
Yeah.
When it was so limited back then,
Yeah.
Tito Ortiz and the Chuck Liddells and you were fighting. And
Yeah,
all those.
it felt like I knew everybody
That's right.
back then. And
Let's get somebody else
now
to
there's so
see.
many new fighters, like, oh my God, where's this guy from? Who's he training with?
Oh my gosh. So let's go back to the point of when you were going to retire. You're 47. You were going to. What was going on in your mind, or what told you, gosh, now it's time. It's time to.
Really,
put
it
the
was.
gloves
It
down
was.
and what did that look like to you?
A couple years before that, getting ready for the James Toney fight, and every old injury I'd ever had flared up during that camp for some reason. And that was the first time I think that internal dialogue we all have, my crazy roommate is who I call him, he started chirping. He's like, oh, maybe that's your body telling you it's time to do something else. And I
Right.
think once you start having that conversation with yourself,
You do.
it's time to take it seriously and think about it. So I didn't want to go out on the James Toney fight. I wanted, a bona fide MMA opponent to kind of, and Lyoto Machida ended up being that guy. So.
He's awesome.
He's the Rubik's Cube of MMA because of his karate background and his footwork and just the way he operated. He was an interesting guy for
It's
sure.
really crazy how you have to prepare for different kind of styles, and so you've really pretty much done it all. Interesting how it has progressed more into the grappling and jiu-jitsu and everything else back more than the striking.
Seems to
and
go
the
through
wrestling.
phases,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
There was a phase there when Chuck was at the top of the weight class in light heavyweight and knocking guys out, catching guys on the end of that ability he has to catch you right on the end of those long levers, and and things seem to go in vogue. That Nogueira pulls off the anaconda choke, and I'm like, oh my God, I know that submission, and then now everybody's out trying to secure the anaconda,
one.
the Darce choke. I mean, it just kind of goes through these phases of popularity and tactics and technique, and
Very cool.
it's been fun.
So, Randy, with the global expansion that's been going on in the UFC and PFL, I see a lot of Russian, Kakistani people coming in and really overtaking some of the divisions. How do you see the United States? How do you see American fighters adjust to that? Because it really is a grappling game. But I'm seeing more on the ground than versus the striking.
It's been an interesting influx from that part of the world, and it was only a matter of time. I mean, obviously, I've been competing against the Russians. They're very strong in combative sports in general, striking certainly. You look at the Klitschko's, and they dominated boxing for a long time in the heavyweight and light heavyweight division. Wrestling is no different. I've been wrestling Russians since I started wrestling in the national team and at that level. And
Yes.
so it was really only a matter of time before they started applying themselves to what's going on in mixed martial arts. And we've certainly seen a lot of Dagestanis coming over. Well, we had 4 Russian champs in the PFL in the finals just 2 weeks ago in Saudi Arabia. So, and a guy from Turkmenistan as well in Dovlet, Yakshir Muradov. So, not surprising to me. I think the fans are like, where do all these guys come from?
I know,
I think anybody that's been in combative sports knows the rich history of combative sports in the former Soviet republics and in Russia, and certainly wrestling. They've been a dominant force in wrestling for a long time. So
Absolutely.
Natural transition, just like me transitioning to MMA in the late 90s. So many other guys from that part of the world are doing that same thing, and it's come on their radar. M1 Global, obviously, Fedor Emelianenko, touted as one of the best fighters in the world, and a guy I wanted to fight at one point for sure.
I was going to ask you that if there was one fighter that you wanted to fight, but you couldn't, and you never did. Who would it be?
At my peak, most rankings had me ranked number 2 in the world and him ranked 1 in the world. So that's the guy you want to fight, right? If you want to be considered the best in your weight class. So I chased that fight for a while with the UFC. It wasn't going to happen and caused a bigger rift with the company trying to make that fight happen outside of the UFC. So it is what it is. It never happened. But I'm hoping, and I love what PFL did with the Champs versus Champs show. I think that's a show that should have happened a long time ago. And some of these big promotions, that's the transparency that we're lacking in our sport as we've grown and become a global entity in the global sport for this generation in combatives. We're lacking some of that transparency and the ability to see some of those crossover fights between Bellator and the champions from the UFC or any other organization. So I think that's some of the area where we need to continue to grow and come together as fighters and kind of demand some minimum treatment, some 401ks, some health insurance would be nice. I mean,
Totally agree.
there's a lot of issues in our sport as we continue to explode.
So I was thinking about PFL and Bellator, there being 2 different organizations.
But it used to be, not so much
I
anymore.
know PFL bought Bellator, but we have distinguished fighters in Bellator and distinguished fighters in PFL, right? Why don't we just all roll that in under one umbrella and just
Well, it basically
make it one
is.
big happy family?
It basically is. I mean, they've kept the Bellator brand intact so far. They purchased it last year. The PFL did, the Professional Fighters League did. Johnny Eblen. I mean, there's Liz Carmouche. There's a lot of amazing champions. We just said Talia fight Dakota Ditcheva. Yeah, Talia, a great fight in the women's division in the featherweights. So it's interesting. I think at some point they will absorb the entire brand, and it will become the PFL Fighting Championship at that highest level at the pay-per-view level, which is what they're using the Bellator model for right now. And a lot of amazing fighters. But what the champs versus champs fight, Impa Kasanganay against Johnny Eblen, on down the line, Renan Ferreira, Ryan Bader. There was some great fights there, and that was kind of one of those first big kind of crossover champs versus champs from 2 organizations that I think a lot of the fans want to see.
Yeah, I mean, there's some exciting fighters in the PFL.
Dakota's amazing and on fire.
She is just a fire plug. Everybody loves her. She's a darling of the sport right now.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting.
Ismail Musayev beat Umlatov in that division at both guys undefeated. Amazing fight as well.
Yes.
Seeing Gadzi Rabadanov.
3 rounds. It was in the very last few minutes of the third round.
There were 5-round fights because it was a championship fight. So you caught him in the third and dropped him, which surprised me. Brett Premise is very tough. Some guys picked him to win the season. And Timur is who beat Brendan in pretty stellar fashion. And it was Gadzi Rabadanov that beat Brett Premise. I got those mixed up as usual.
It's easy to do.
Wow.
It's easy to do.
Just focusing on pronouncing some of these names. Oh my gosh.
It's the most difficult thing in the world.
It's
I have
wild.
to keep saying it and saying it and
Thankfully, they give us some phonetics. They spell it out for us on our notes. Yeah.
Thank you, because I'm the same way.
Dovlitz on Yagshi Murdoch. Go ahead. There's a mouthful for you. But he's a great guy. He actually he does some acting. He's done some Bollywood films and some stuff. Yeah, he does a lot of action stuff as a martial artist.
See that.
He's got a really interesting look, and I've seen some of his film.
Well,
it's
he
good.
looks like a badass, so he would probably.
It's good. Yeah,
he
can execute a lot of that tactic and technique on camera, which is cool.
Speaking of film and movies and different things that you've done, let's move into that part of your career as well. You were actually doing movies parts while you were fighting.
Yeah.
How you did both, I don't know how you managed both of those.
I kind of became a master juggler as a 19-year-old with a new family on the way and joining the Army, and then ended up wrestling and traveling all over on the national team, wrestling as a soldier, and you just kind of start figuring out how to keep a lot of balls in the air.
It's crazy.
And that just continued on down the line.
How were you approached? I mean, how did that all
We got a call.
come about anyway?
Yeah, we got a call from the UFC that they were doing this movie called Cradle to the Grave,
Right.
Jet Li and DMX,
Yes.
and they had some underground cage fighting scenes in the movie, and so they wanted some authentic cage fighters. So myself, Chuck Liddell, and Tito Ortiz all got the call from
How
the UFC.
interesting. Yeah.
Spent a week in LA in a garage, a parking garage, filming this underground fight scene.
Kind of small, ain't he?
Let's go, chicken shit.
You're the chicken shit, buddy.
Not today.
With a midget announcer, Martin, who was amazing. The same kid from, Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
That same guy.
Oh my gosh,
yeah, he was a great guy, and it was a lot of fun and a very intriguing and interesting process. I had one line in the movie, "Let's go, chicken shit." To Jet Li.
Look at your voice. Oh, shit.
And I had a fight scene with Jet Li. Of course, I'm supposed to throw a big right hand at him, and he's just supposed to dodge it. Well, he didn't get out of the way. Thankfully, I didn't
Oh my
punch
God,
him.
did you really?
But I ran him over for sure. Of course, the director went ape. I just ran over the star of the movie. But he was very gracious, and we laughed about it. And then obviously I got to know him and meet him and work with him a lot more down the road with Expendables. And
Oh yeah, the Expendables was
but
fun.
that was my
fun
first feature
series.
film
Yeah.
experience, was Cradle to the Grave.
Cool. What do you think was your worst performance in the movie and the best performance?
I did a film called No Rules. I think it was the third film I'd ever done. Cradle to the Grave was first.
Yeah.
I think I did Today You Die with Seagal. I played a doorman, one
Steven
stunt
Seagal,
scene,
yeah.
fight scene with him. And then I did this movie, No Rules, which was kind of an MMA movie. Frank Shamrock's in it, Danny Henderson, a whole bunch of us MMA guys.
I've gotta go
It
see
never,
it. I didn't
it
see
never went to theaters. It came out on DVD back then, and I was the lead bad guy in that movie.
Really?
And
How'd you do?
it's cringeworthy. But it was fun, and I mean, at some point you have to get your feet wet, right? And that was pretty early on for me to be carrying a load like that as a lead bad guy. But it was a lot of fun.
How fun?
Pam Anderson's brother, Jerry Anderson, wrote that script with David
Really?
Dunn, and David starred in the movie. Pam made a cameo. Mike was it? It wasn't Mike Madsen. It was. Oh my gosh! It had the motorcycle wreck. I'll think of it. Yeah, you'd think I got punched in the face for a living or something, but I can't think of the name.
It's okay.
Not Gary Oldman. I love Gary Oldman.
Me
He's
too.
an amazing
Great
actor. It'll come to me.
That's okay.
Anyway.
All right. So when you and I talked last, I saw you in Florida, right? And
Yep.
I actually walked into the room and interrupted your studying, and you were
Oh.
just finishing up that film. Remember?
Yes, Pitfall.
Is it a zombie film or what is it?
It's a slasher
exactly?
film, basically.
A slasher film.
But it was a
done.
slasher film with a little heart. It had a flashback, so you kind of understood why this guy was a psycho running around in the woods killing people. They don't usually give you that backstory, and I kind of like that this script gave you kind of that backstory. What made this guy a madman, a psycho?
Why is he so mean?
Yeah, so it was a fun character to play. Took him about 2 hours to glue hair on me.
How fun.
And then all this crazy makeup with teeth and everything. I've been living in the woods since I was 8 years old. So, yeah, running around killing
dental.
hunters and hikers and campers. And in many ways, it's a family movie because
I'm sure.
my family drugged me out into the woods and created this psycho. The campers that I'm hunting all have their family stories, and they're dealing with their issues as this whole thing unfolds, and they realize they're being hunted and taken out one by one. So,
fun.
yeah, it was a fun one.
Has it been released?
No, it hasn't come out yet. Still in post-production. I've seen a couple clips here and there from the director. It was shot up in Vancouver, Langley, just outside of Vancouver, where they shoot Last of Us, and a lot of stuff gets shot up there.
Was it cold?
And it reminded me so much of home, Seattle, where I grew up. I mean, we're right up the road. So the trees, the rain, the moisture, I was just like, oh my God, I'm home. This is amazing. So I had a great experience. It was a lot of fun. And juggled that in August with 3 fight shows with the PFL. So
I don't know how you do
it was
that.
a real challenge.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. You got some sleep, I'm sure, but not much.
A little here and there.
Yeah.
But sometimes you do what you got to do.
You do. Let's pivot to your business side. You opened Extreme Couture in 2007.
Yeah, 07.
Yep. And there's a lot of competition. And
In
I
this-
have some questions
in this market,
about that.
yeah.
A lot of competition. Now, tell me about, I don't know how it works, so I want you to explain it to me. Do you just let anybody come in and work in your gym now? Is that what anybody, or do you?
So
have
first gym for
specific-
me was Team Quest up in Gresham, Oregon. Me, Dan Henderson, and Matt Linland opened that training center. There was no such thing as a mixed martial arts training center back then. So there was this niche, I'm going to 24-hour fitness in the college wrestling room and the jiu-jitsu school in town to find partners and all the modalities that we needed for MMA. And so this whole idea of putting all that under one roof was a unique situation up in Gresham, Oregon with Dan Henderson and Matt Linland, who were both great fighters, and my partners. Robert Follis was kind of the businessman that helped us manage and bring all that together and run the nuts and bolts side of Team Quest. And then I ended up going through the divorce in 05, moved here and started Extreme Couture. Danny moved to Temecula and started Team Hendo.
Yeah, I love
for a while it
I
was
lived in Temecula
for a while it was Team Quest South, and then Matt and Danny kind of got in a rhubarb over the name because they were both trying to franchise and do stuff, and so Danny started Team Hendo down there, and Matt still runs Team Quest up in Gresham. It's still there. So that was the original business, and we realized very quickly we had no idea how to run a business, and it was a very big learning curve for us. And hence bringing in Robert Follis as a partner, because he'd been managing some JKD gyms up in the Portland area that we were using as training centers and finding partners. That's where Robert Follis and Nate Corey, so many of these guys that ended up fighting with us and training with us was from those JKD gyms with Matt Thornton. So when I moved here, I was going to the set basically for the Ultimate Fighter. They gave me keys to that gym.
Really?
So, but when a new season would come on, I had to go find someplace else to train, and I got tired of doing that. I did that for 2 years, and so we found this space and started Extreme Couture MMA in 07 right here. And
in this very building.
we are open to anybody. Except for pro practice. That's by invitation only.
You
Obviously,
have some great fighters that fight under.
in the early days, we'd get guys walking in off the street, I beat anybody in here, I want to be a fighter. And we'd have to kind of regulate that stuff, which was fun and some stories in and of itself. But as far as the regular membership, most of them don't want to get punched in the face. They want to learn the tactics, learn the technique, and all of that, but don't really want to spar. They can't show up to work with a black eye.
Of course not.
So, and there's only a few of us that have that screw loose that don't mind getting punched in the face, to be honest.
I'm out on that, but I do like jiu-jitsu. I started taking jiu-jitsu, and I'm one of the most dangerous ones because I have a white belt and I can, control it.
Okay. Well, I think jiu-jitsu is an amazing sport and great, especially for female practitioners.
Yes, I love
my daughter did it for years, and it's great. If you were attacked, more than likely the person that's attacking you is going to be bigger, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu operates from that position of a disadvantage, and it's a great way to learn to use your long levers and be proficient in protecting yourself, choking people out, and you know, God forbid you should ever have to, but it's nice to know you could if you had to.
Yeah, at least you have it.
Yeah.
So I would absolutely, I put my son into jiu-jitsu
Awesome.
because he was getting picked on. And then he started taking it, and it teaches you discipline. It teaches you not to actually use that skill
There you go.
against someone.
The responsibility that comes with that
you
knowledge.
Have the responsibility and the respect of the sport. But it also gives you so much confidence to know that if something did happen or arise,
Yeah.
you can kick their butts.
Yeah. I never worried about my daughter on her dates. I was a little more worried about her date. She was pretty ornery. Get out of line. She's probably going to choke you out.
Speaking of her dates, did you do an interview with the guy before she was like,
You'd think that would have some sway, but it never did. No. Oh, hell no.
Who cares
no.
if you're Randy Couture?
Yeah.
I'm not going out with you, Dad.
Yeah.
That's funny. All right. I do have one thing that I thought you were just fabulous in. Do you know what it was?
I don't know.
Okay.
Dancing with the Stars, maybe?
Dancing with the
It's so
Stars.
funny because...
You fluttering about on the stage.
When the world is cold, I will feel a glow just thinking of you and the way you look tonight. And that last
Fluttering.
The Bazzicata.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Karina
you know what?
Smirnoff was
I'm
my
gonna come
partner,
back.
and she
I'm
was
gonna come
amazing.
back, and
Yeah.
we're going to do the cha-cha.
Oh, the cha-cha was fun. I got to do that one with Karina.
I watched. She was very good. What a coach she was.
Yeah, she was awesome.
She made
Very,
you
very
look good,
talented.
Randy.
She was like, "You're a freak, you know that, right?" She was like, "You want to take breaks?" I'm like, "No, my lower body's not doing what it's supposed to do yet. I don't need a break."
Oh my gosh, I was cracking up watching that.
That was fun. I
You
enjoyed
did
it.
pretty good.
The goal was to step outside the box. You know, people, I think, as an actor, were still seeing me as an athlete who was trying to be an actor. And there's obviously lots of different sides to me and my personality. So that was an opportunity for me to show a different side of myself. And same with, you know, Whose Line Is It Anyway? And Lip Sync Battle and you know, all those different shows that I again, wanted to put myself out there and show different sides of myself. And not just a guy that gets in a cage and punches people in the face.
I can actually dance. That's so funny.
I had a crazy group of friends in junior high school that all loved to go to the school dances, and we'd have dance parties and dance competitions and all this stuff. And I was like every other boy coming out of 6th grade, knew that, you know, junior high I was going to have to go to school dances and was petrified. And they make you do square dancing and teach you modern dance in gym class.
How horrible that
Oh, it was awful. I was like, oh my God, I got to go. Going home, my mom's like, what's wrong with you? I was like, I got to dance tomorrow in gym class. She's like, oh my God. I loved to dance as a kid. She taught me how to jitterbug and how to swing dance.
Yeah, my mom did too.
Because I came home petrified of that class the next day.
Yes. My mom and I danced in the living room for hours.
Yeah.
You got to learn how to dance. You're a girl. And we did all those dances. That's how I learned.
Yeah.
It was fun.
So when 7th grade rolled around and the school dances came, I had these friends that were all into that. It was fun. We had a blast, and I was never really scared of it. And so they originally approached me about doing the show. I was still fighting. And I was like, nah, my luck, I'll get a fight, and I'll have to kind of juggle both of those balls. And I knew what a commitment this was going to be in Dancing with the Stars. So I said, no, I'm still competing. I don't think it makes sense for me right now. So then when I retired in 2011, they reapproached me about doing the show. And I was like, yeah, I'm retired now. Let's do this. So 5 weeks to train and get up to speed with Karina, to learn as many dances and styles as I could. Because it's weird how they do it. Because there's so many competitors, you only get a portion of a song. You don't get a whole song.
No.
And so they're like, oh, you get 58 seconds of this song.
And so
now you have to figure out what that choreography is that goes in that 58 seconds.
Okay, so Karina is really good at that.
And she developed all those dances to those songs. We pick the song, they give us our clip of the song, and then we figure out what dance moves we want to do in that amount of time.
Interesting.
And so you get 5 weeks for that first one. So obviously I felt like that was the most comfortable dance for me.
Yeah.
And then you're literally 6 days till the next show to learn the next dance and the next song.
Wow.
So you're scrambling for those next weeks.
So you are going.
Yeah. And you're dancing every single day, 6 or 7 hours a day. I still lost 9 pounds. I was in shape going into that. Yeah, I was sweating my butt off. It was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun.
Well, thank goodness for your mom. I'm glad she danced with you.
Yes, I'm very thankful for that as well.
I know you're really close with her. That's really awesome that you have a close relationship with your mom. Not all of us have the ideal parents. I mean, your dad was a little bit distant, but and mine really was too. My mom was really more the stalwart of the family, right? So it's good to have.
It was definitely the case for us three.
Yeah.
My 2 sisters. I was the oldest and only male, and I mean, you deal with what you got to deal with. That's just how life is.
You do.
Those things make you who you are.
Yes. Let's pivot to your health. In October, was it October 23rd, 2019?
October 2019, yep.
It's been a heck of a year. Had a heart attack in October. I've been that guy that won every sprint, that was the example coaches pointed out for work ethic and the ability to outwork my opponents. And now I've had a heart attack. It didn't fit. It didn't fit who I saw in the morning every day. And I don't fit any of that criteria for heart attacks. The stars aligned in a very particular way for that day to happen. And in a lot of ways, I'm happy the way it went down, because I was 3 blocks from the hospital. Everything that happens to you makes you stronger. You have to find the perspective and the frame around those situations.
You're at the gym. Let's set it up.
Yeah. Well, I was in LA working on a Western.
Yeah.
Outlaw Johnny Black with Michael Jai White. And
Were you at the
worked
gym?
on Monday, had Tuesday and Wednesday off, so didn't have to be back on set till Thursday. I was already in LA, had a condo at the time in LA. And I'm very, very good friends with Jay Glazer, who owns Unbreakable up on Sunset. And and I had been training there and working out there and helping him with the gym and everything there. So I went on Tuesday on my day off to work out. And same workout I'd done the week before. It was weird, like, God, I had this weird
It's like a little
ache
stitch in your
up high,
your ribs right here.
and it wrapped around
Was it on the left hand side?
on the right side, wrapped around to the middle of my back,
See,
which is
different.
counterintuitive,
Counterintuitive.
And so I had no idea, my wildest dream, that I was having a heart attack.
I know. Right?
I'm
No,
like,
it's
well, how did I pop a rib? And I'm like foam rolling it, trying to. I change clothes, I drive home, I literally drive down and drive right past Cedars-Sinai, which is the #1 cardiac unit in the country. My condo's 3 blocks from Cedars-Sinai.
So what did you do? I know.
So I park in the parking garage under the condo. Mindy was with me. She's like, oh, I'm gonna start my car. I hadn't started it in a couple weeks because her car is parked there full time. And so I'm gonna go up and lay down. This weird ache won't go away. Yeah. And so I'm laying on the bed thinking, this is very strange. I couldn't figure it out. She comes back up from starting her car. And I'm like, babe, something ain't right. This won't go away. It doesn't feel. It's not normal. And let's walk over to the emergency room.
Did because.
So we walked over to the emergency room.
Yeah.
Packed. It was packed. There was 2 seats in the whole place.
So you and her walked.
Yeah, we walked over, and I said, hey, I'm having a weird chest pain. I can't figure out what it is. I don't know if I popped a rib or what. They said, okay, well, sit down. We'll get to you as soon as we can.
Sure.
10 minutes later, they call me. Some crackhead tries to kick me in the face. I'm like, whoa, hey, easy. And they put me on the EKG, and man, you'd have thought it was NASCAR. Start cutting off my clothes, throwing me on a gurney, running me up.
What was going on? You just said,
well, it literally, basically. And rushing me to the cath lab to go in. And Mindy thought they were ripping my chest open. She was like, oh my God.
She was really scared.
I was crazy, really crazy.
Scary.
I spent a couple nights in cardiac ICU. I don't know how anybody sleeps there.
Nobody.
And the beeping and the noises, and they're checking you every 45 minutes. And I'm like, I was a zombie by the time I got out of there. And they're like, we don't know what to do with you. It's not a lifestyle issue. It's genetic. You have polycythemia, thick blood.
Genetic.
And
okay.
so You know, I had started the TRT at 55. My testosterone levels were very low. What's the side effect of the TRT? It pushes your hematocrit and hemoglobin even higher. And I was already right at the top of normal, which I knew from being a fighter and having to do blood tests every year to be licensed as a fighter. I knew my hematocrit and hemoglobin was right at the top of normal, where the TRT pushed me way over normal.
Wow.
And they think that was a contributing factor to the heart attack and the blood clot. I got dehydrated. I had a plaque rupture in my diagonal artery, your widowmaker, from a car accident in '94. I had an altercation with a drunk driver. They think I damaged that artery. And so the plaque ruptured. My blood did what it's supposed to do, created a clot, only it was so thick that it occluded the entire artery.
So you were really close to dying.
I'm very, very lucky that it happened when and where it happened. And I could walk to the emergency room at one of the best cardiac units in the country. So
that's a God thing.
Yeah. The month before, I was hiking up Yosemite Falls, dehydrated as hell.
It's nuts.
If that had happened there, I would have been
gone.
toast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You would have gone. Well, thank God you're here. That makes me happy. That makes me happy because you have a lot of passion for life. Are you taking care of yourself?
100%. Yeah, they're even letting me out of the ICU. They're like, well, we don't know what to do with you. We're going to send you to rehab. It's not a lifestyle issue. We don't need to change your diet. We don't need your body fat. Everything is fine.
It's just a blood issue.
We just you have to dump blood. And so I started dumping blood, and I've been fine, training hard and feeling good, down to fighting weight almost. I'm walking around at about 206, 207. So
that's
feel
awesome.
Lean and mean.
Yeah, you look good. You look good.
Thank you.
So I'm going to wind down with probably one of your best passions in life, and that's working with the veterans.
Yeah.
That's super important, and you really contribute a lot. I think you're kind of working with them in dealing with their PTSD and other side effects of the military people coming home. They have to adjust to life.
Yeah.
What exactly are you doing? Tell everybody, what exactly are you doing to help them deal outside of the military?
Yeah. Well, obviously I served from 82 to 88, the peak of the Cold War. I never had to put my butt on the line. I took the same oath that every other soldier since 9/11 who has gone into a field of combat took. I never had to put my butt on the line. And so obviously in a different phase of my life now and after 9/11, seeing everything that's going on and knowing a bunch of men and women from that took that same oath that are friends of mine. So wanted to find a way to give back. And in '06, I got to go to Iraq. Spent 12 days on the ground over there with Rich Franklin. Went to
Franklin?
Yeah.
Was with you?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Went to 6 different FOBs, visited a bunch of soldiers. 2 of the FOBs actually had mats, so we rolled the mats out and grappled with everybody. It was a blast. It was a fun trip. An eye-opener for me as a former soldier being in a combat zone in Baghdad and watching them do everything that I trained to do and never had to do. 07, I went to Walter Reed in Bethesda in D.C. We did a barbecue at the Fisher House, which takes care of caregivers, moms, wives, fathers, whose loved one is in that hospital, going through surgeries, getting fitted for prosthetics, learning to walk again, all that stuff after being wounded. That was the first time going in the wards and meeting a bunch of soldiers fresh off the battlefield.
And been really
again,
emotional for you.
Very, very emotional day.
So emotional.
Don Fry and Ken Shamrock were on that trip with me and did the barbecue with me. And hearing the stories, meeting Mom, who's sitting next to her son who's had a traumatic brain injury and hasn't spoken in 3 months, and watching her dote over her son.
There's a lot of heartbreak there. So many things. I know, Randy.
So that was the impetus for me. Hearing those Mom's cars in the parking garage with a boot on it. It's been there 3 months. We can't afford the $1,500 to pay those tickets. So Mom could go back to work, and she's about to lose her job. Crap like that.
Yeah.
That motivated me to go file for 501c3 status and start doing these events.
I love that, and I can tell that it's just such a great passion for you, and I understand the emotion. We're going to cry here. I understand the emotion of seeing that, and I love that you do that for other people.
So we started the Extreme Couture GI Foundation in 2007. Had a big turned the gym into a nightclub, basically. That was our first event, and had a big event here. And then we started a motorcycle poker run, and that took off. And we started raising money and funds and awareness for our wounded combat veterans. And every year we go out to the hospital again, and the staff there helps me identify the folks that need a little financial assistance. So we sit down with them and give them each a $10,000 check. I think last year we gave away 16 of those checks. And we've expanded our mission in recent years through MVP, Emerging Vets and Players, which is another foundation that we run, the Nevada chapter out of this gym. We open our gyms up to any vet or retired athlete in any sport that wants to come work out. And we've recognized through MVP that whether you're walking away from the military uniform or your athletic uniform, that transition is wrought full of problems. Self-medication, adrenaline seeking, struggles with their purpose and who they are now, been much harder to get through to the athletes. Oh, I was in the NFL. There's a bit of bravado there that you have to kind of cut through, but they all struggle with the same thing. So getting the two groups together to share, to work out, to sweat again, get back in shape, and then the huddle at the end of that is amazing.
Love it.
The peer-on-peer counseling and the stuff that comes out in that huddle, especially with our veterans, is remarkable and very, very powerful. So our database has grown. We're now providing some counseling services. We're doing some plant-based medicine journeys to help some of these guys deal with their TBI and their PTSD, providing some block counseling for some of these guys that need to fix some of the wounds that are on the inside that aren't so visible, and just help these guys in any way we can get through that transition and get back to being contributing members to this society. And after what they've sacrificed, they're worth it.
100%. It is one of the best and most
and then these guys came along.
I know, right? You're doing kind of promotion for a very cool brand called Four Branches.
So four tier one operators, four tier one operators, one from each branch that came up with this concept.
Very cool.
Two of the guys had to bring back a friend who had passed in combat, and being an angel flight, basically bringing one of those bodies back and having to deal with that family and deal with all of that. That was the impetus. And they're like, man, we gotta stop drinking to forget. We gotta start sipping to remember these guys. And that was the motto. You served honorably, drink honorably, sip to remember was what they came up with. These four, Air Force, Navy, Marine, and Army guys. Yes. They're all four tier one operators. And then I get reached out from the Army guy who's a Green Beret. I do a lot of stuff obviously with the services, and they asked if I'd be interested in being a brand ambassador for this brand. And as soon as I heard their motto, I'm like, hell yes, absolutely. So we're just coming out of our first year being on the market. It's been an amazing product. It's a give back brand. We're giving back to Army foundations, Navy foundations, Marine foundations, the SEAL Foundation, a bunch of those foundations that support our men and women in uniform is what the Four Branches is all about.
So each of the sales, a portion of that goes to those. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So it needs to be distributed everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
I think we're in 6 states right now, and obviously eventually we'll roll out in every state and be across the board. But you have to take your time. And, supply and demand is a very delicate thing, especially with something like a bourbon. So you get ahead of yourself and get in too many states, and then you can't fill those orders. You've created a problem. So you've got to roll it out proper.
Never had a bourbon.
Oh, wow.
I brought you a little a gift.
Oh.
I'm just going to take it out of my little tacky bag. I put it in.
And look at that.
Look, it's little sipper glasses.
Oh, that's cool.
So, open it up.
Oh, that is awesome. Thank you.
I don't know if you have any of those.
Oh, no, that's very cool.
I like them. There's 2 of them.
Well, do you want to try a bourbon?
I do. I want to. I'm a little nervous.
We're opening a bourbon here.
Yeah, we're having some fun now. It's party time.
Drink honorably.
Let's do it. Let's remember.
Sip to remember.
Sip to remember, baby.
Get a little taste of that.
Okay.
Ooh.
Okay.
I'm going to have to drink that up off the table now.
Oh, my gosh.
Well.
Sip to remember.
Sip to remember. Here's to our men and women in uniform.
Absolutely, every day. Actually, that's kind of smooth.
It's very smooth. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I would say that.
It's a really nice. Steve Nally is the master distiller for Maker's Mark for 40 years. He's in the Hall of Fame as a bourbon maker.
Very cool.
He's the one that made this blend. It's got a little wheat in the mash,
yeah,
which takes a little of the Kentucky hug off there. It's a little lighter burn at the end of it,
Yeah,
and
no, it's great.
that's what makes it really smooth. I really like it. It's a good bourbon.
That's a fireplace bourbon.
There you go.
Right? You
there you
sit
go.
in a big fire pit
Yeah.
and drink that?
Yeah,
I
that's
love
perfect
it.
for that.
Listen to good music.
Yeah.
Randy, it's been really fun. Thank you so much for taking time. I know you're such a busy guy, and I've been bugging you to do this, so I'm so happy that you're here.
Well, I'm glad you came to
share
Vegas, and we got
bullshit.
got to visit the gym and kind of see my little world here.
Yeah.
It always feels a little weird to me being in this space with all these pictures and stuff.
I think
just
it's awesome.
a little over the top for me, but
No, it's great. I mean, it's you. It's who you were and who you are now.
it's the
which is
remnants of a pretty amazing journey, honestly.
A really great guy. I know the only thing you really haven't actually done is maybe fly to the moon. Maybe you have plans for
It's
that.
assuming
I
we
don't
actually
know.
did that.
That might be maybe your next goal. Sip the bourbon in
Yeah.
space, right? Okay. Well, we'll see. But I'm anxious to see what you're going to do next. I mean, you have done it pretty much everything.
I'm having a blast.
I love
honestly,
it.
I feel very blessed and fortunate to have been on this journey, to have met the people I've met, and the folks that have helped me along the way. It's been remarkable, honestly.
Sweet. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank
I
you.
had a great time.
I appreciate you.
Randy Couture, UFC legend, but really a legend as a man. Thank you so much for watching today. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel and, of course, hit the notification button so you get notified with every video I launch. Thanks for watching. MMA Hot Lips out. All right.
Perfect.